So, you want to be an expert Star Trucker? Well, I'm glad you're here. I have the best and greatest of Star Trek Trucker tips and tricks to help you become an expert trucker. Uh, let's get going. Starting off, there are two important things that you need to learn. Resource management, path planning, and skirting the law. As I've gone southern. Now, the most important resource to learn to manage is your power. You have three main sets of power. Fuck. You have three main sets of power. You have your core, your attachments, and then the maglock. The core power involves everything. It involves most everything from the heads-up display to being able to move, to the lights, and being able to use any of these dials. So let's talk about, first off, the easiest power to adjust, the core power. You see, at current, it's all the way up at 57%. That's because I got headlights on, I got thermal on, all sorts of stuff. You don't want that. So when you come in, go through and just turn off as much of the things as you can. Like, as you can see, just from turning off all of the lights and making it a slightly worse viewing experience for you guys, I've already brought the power down to down 20% per hour. As you can see right now, like, the air blower is off entirely. However, if I turn it off, it drops down by 2%. So even if your blower is off, if the temperature of the environment is between 30 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 to whatever, you want to come into here and turn off the climate regulator just so you reduce that drain a little bit more. It is beneficial to you to not have the suit charger on unless you are very accident prone like I am, because you'll be able to just recharge the suit for free simply at the charging station, simply at the dock. Now, one of your biggest money drains is going to be the gravity. Most of the time, you can also go ahead and turn off the mag locks unless you are hauling something or trying to dock. Now, a controversial and sometimes beneficial, sometimes not, thing to turn off is the gravity compensator. Because the gravity is probably the single biggest power drain. However, I would advise against traveling with gravity off if you have any loose merchandise. Make sure when you're transporting loose items that you don't let them get damaged at all, because something as little as 1 point, or in this case 4 points, of damage can reduce the price of it by a whole 10%. Which is generally why, like, it is good practice that when you are buying a whole bunch of loose items, especially if they are big items that can't fit in the hard case containers, you want to make sure that you turn off the gravity. So when you're using items, you never want to use up all of the item, because once an item loses all of its HP or all of its charge for batteries, it will lose 50% of its value from when it had some amount of charge. Items that have both HP and charge, value is determined only by its lowest value. The oxygen filters, you can see the health bar. Don't worry about the health bar. The purple bar on the bottom, once that hits around 50%, that's its efficiency. At around 50%, you should work on getting rid of it, because at that point it just isn't worth keeping it when it's below 50%. So you shouldn't be too worried about going into debt. You shouldn't be too worried about going into debt, as long as you are going into debt because of being able to purchase items. More importantly, about being able to purchase items with the intention of using those items to sell. As far as I can tell, there is no limit for how much in the negative you can go. There are items in your containers, so you can press right click and you can open up the container to be able to sell things out of them straight away, which makes life much easier. Additionally, the cardboard boxes are in fact a container and aren't any worse than the hard case containers. The only downside to a cardboard box over the hard case is that since it only has four slots in it, it can't store these big items. You don't have to worry about going overweight unless you happen to be going through a sector that has the way station icon in it, because they will call you in, and if you are overweight, they will force you to sell items until you are underweight. Additionally, if you get called into two-way and then sell the items at a store in the sector, you'll get a fine for littering. On the map for path planning, you can actually zoom in to be able to get more information, such as you will be able to see what is in the what sort of things happen to be at that junction. Additionally, just because it only has one icon of that type does not mean it only has one of those stations available. Such as like at Atlas Prime. Atlas Prime has 3 separate stores. And there's this arrow up here that you can click to drop down to get this bigger icon telling you what it thinks are the big items to have listed for price changes. However, just because the item is not listed on that list does not mean that it is selling at market value. Additionally, one very important thing to remember is that the prices at the shops will change per hour in game, along with which way station, and I guess on the map, that symbol I am pretty sure means that there is a security checkpoint. The way stations move. Additionally, on the map, with being able to zoom in, you can see the pathing and everything else. However, one thing that is really cool is that since time is a very big prospect in this game, you can click on these nodes to plan out a path, when you are zoomed in, you'll be able to see exactly how long that taking that jump will take. So, sometimes with the just-in-time missions, and missions in general, you will have a drop-off window to drop off the item, which means that if you get there before that time says on that third set, you will not have a spot to be able to turn the cargo in at. When you are loading items onto your shelving, never put any loose inventory onto the bottom shelf, because trying to put the item down onto the bottom shelf will cause the item to drop far enough to take damage. Oh, as I was saying with skirting the law, several areas will have restricted cargo, such as explosives and narcotics. However, should you be able to sell them, the items that are restricted cargo also tend to be relatively valuable items, excluding the beer. So they can be decently profitable when you are able to sell them. However, periodically there are security checks. I don't know what the fine is, but I suspect the fine will be like 1,000 to 2,000 per item, along with the confiscation of said item. When going to leave your truck to go and collect some salvage, you can take a hard case container or cardboard box with you to be able to collect more items at once. You can tell if a hard case container has items in it just by hovering over it, by how many of those little white dots there are. And I think that's all the tips I have for you. I'll catch you all next time. And make sure you keep your eyes on the road while you're driving.